Hi friends, on Sunday we talked about what a parable is. A parable is a special story that helps us to learn something about God. Jesus talks a lot about parables. On Sunday we talked about the parable of the mustard seed, how the seed starts really small but then it grows into a big tree. Today we're in my kitchen because I want to talk to you about another parable that Jesus uses to teach us something about God. This one is called the parable of the yeast. Now yeast, I have some here measured out. It's very small and fine, and it is used when you make bread. It's actually a very small, single-celled microorganism, and when it's activated, it eats up sugars and it creates carbon dioxide. Now, Jesus says the kingdom of God is like yeast. So let's find out why. I'll give you a hint. Yeast, when it's put into bread dough, it's gonna change the whole thing. All the bread dough will be changed. For this experiment today, we're gonna do 1 loaf of bread with yeast and 1 loaf without yeast, no yeast. And we're gonna see what kind of difference it makes. So let's start by putting some yeast in this warm water right here and mixing it up. I'm going to move this so you can see what's happening to the yeast. I'm going to mix it up really good. Look at how that water is changing. It looks very different from this water already. Once the yeast is all mixed up, then we're gonna add it to the rest of our bread ingredients. I'm gonna do that part and then come back so that we can see what happens after we add the yeast. Okay, so now that we have our dough with the yeast and our dough with no yeast, we're gonna put them into these 2 glass bowls and we're gonna see what happens to them over time. So let's get the first one. No yeast. And this one has yeast. And I'm gonna cover them up with these towels and we're gonna let them sit here and see what happens to them. Okay, it's time to see what happened with our 2 bowls of dough. This one has no yeast and this one has yeast. Oh my goodness, look how much bigger the bowl with the yeast got than the bowl without yeast. That is a really big difference. The yeast didn't just stay by itself, it interacted with all of the other ingredients in the dough and changed everything. The dough is completely different. Jesus says that the kingdom of God is like the yeast in the dough. It changes everything in the world. And when we have God's love in our heart, we can't just keep it to ourselves either. We share it with our friends, with our neighbors, with our family, and it changes everything. Okay, I'm gonna finish making my bread. I hope that you have a great afternoon, and we'll see you next time.